I think my 30M wife 30F is becoming attracted to her boss and he is reciprocating her affection. What should I do to tackle this issue? My wife started a job over a year ago at a small game company. She was ecstatic to get a real job where she could make an impact as a game designer. She got promoted to lead game designer a little while ago and is incredibly happy to be in charge of much of the project with a lot of folks working underneath her. Ever since she started, she's been working very closely with the CEO of the company. Some background on this guy. He's foreign, tall, charismatic, rich, and cultured. He's roughly 50 and is still relatively fit. Plays hockey as a hobby. He drives a top-of-the-line Tesla, lives in a very large and beautiful home, and he lavishes the office with fancy tech and regular meals gifts. She frequently comes home and tells me about his personal life. His wife, his stepkids. As well, she tells me about how he's been making $400,000 plus dollars since he was 20. She also regularly mentions how nice his house is and has been bringing up the idea of us upgrading to a larger house for the dogs. I hear about how this guy has basically been printing money from one business to the next and how he rides the stock market like a high roller. My wife also gets upset if her boss doesn't like her ideas. She'll be in a rut about it for a couple days or so and I can see how grumpy she gets. It weighs on her if she's not in his good graces. At the same time, she does think he's a bit silly sometimes with his requests for how the game should be. Sometimes she disagrees with his decisions and I make a comment like that sounds dumb and she gets defensive of him. Goes from I think his ideas are questionable to why are you attacking my boss all of a sudden? That was my red flag number 1. She's being protective of him. Just because I agreed with her. It really didn't escalate past that for a while. Then she started buying new clothes, nothing terribly fancy. She is one of the managers, she might be trying to dress the part. Could be a warning flag though. I even suggested she may want to buy new clothes as a manager, so not super weird. They were professional and appropriate for the office, so I'm not super worried. Then she bought Vagisil body wash. A genital cleaning product for the shower. She doesn't take impromptu showers or anything when she comes home from work, but that was a bit odd. She told me I should use it on myself to clean my DCK. I thought that was odd. I am very thorough with my genital cleaning, use a loofah, sometimes take 2 showers a day if it's hot out and I'm sweaty. I'm not a smelly guy by any measure, so it was an odd suggestion. This wasn't super odd, but if you add all of these things together, might be a variable. Then we got invited over to her boss's house for dinner. I met some of her coworkers, a friend of the boss who owns a brewery, etc. They seemed nice. The boss dropped that he was making $400,000 a year when he was 20-something in the first real conversation we had. I couldn't help but be reminded of my family's advice. My family is not poor by any measure, that rich people don't brag how much money they have, they keep it to themselves. The boss has a very nice house, but it wasn't like a super baller rich millionaire home. I make more than 6 figures. And if I wanted to, I could likely afford the mortgage for his home. I don't though, because I already have a nice and fairly large home and prefer to live within my means so that my wife and I can not only travel whenever we want, but also be financially dependent by the time we're 40. The other thing I noticed and overheard from conversation is that the boss's wife hasn't been around for several months. She's away, and the step-kids are all grown up. The boss mentioned he gets his better behaviors from his wife as he was entertaining us, but he also mentioned to his brewery friend that it was lonely in the empty house. After that weekend dinner, the following week, my wife came home with some new dresses and whatnot. These were a bit higher quality than anything she would normally buy. Her family had to work for everything they have, so she can be a bit thrifty on her clothes. She does her hair all the time now, spends a lot of time in front of the mirror before going to work, and these new dresses readily show a healthy spoonful of cleavage. These kinds of dresses are the kind she used to wear when we were dating. She switched to more comfortable clothes after we got married. Then, most recently, she asked if I wanted to go out for dinner. We went out to our local pub, had a good meal, chatted. Then she brought up a question. Do you want to go to Spain? It turned out her boss had asked if she and I would go to Spain with him on a work trip. Apparently her boss had suggested I come along or else it might be weird. No one else except some co-worker who already lives in Spain would be with us. The trip is supposed to be sightseeing locations they want to put into the game, but my wife admitted that her boss had wanted to go to Spain on his last vacation only a couple weeks ago and this was his excuse to go there. She also then hinted that it might be boring at times as we explore through random locations looking at how they would fit into the game. It felt like she was sort of trying to deter me from going. Instead of agreeing, I said, "No, I wouldn't mind going to Spain, would be fun." I asked, "Do small game studios usually do all expenses paid travel to design game levels?" She replied, "Oh, yeah, it's actually super common. I've read that a lot of folks are even saying it should be done more and involve the entire design team, even the 3D artists." I was also told the company had lots of money and could afford to do this. In my head, I'm thinking to myself that even if this is all normal, this is going to become a recurring thing. This boss has no qualms about up and traveling to various places around the world at any time because he has the money and resources to do so. Apparently it's a common complaint that he disappears for months sometimes and leaves the game project in a lurch. I'm not 100% comfortable with the fact that this guy who regularly goes out whining, dining, renting yachts, driving fancy cars, and visiting exotic locations, has decided he wants to take my wife along with him. Could it be research for the game? Sure. Maybe. It sounds to me more like he's flaunting his money and taking my young attractive wife along for the ride. I wonder why the boss's wife isn't coming to Spain with him. If you read online, folks will tell you you must trust your wife, and if you have a good relationship, you'll realize that your wife is a boss professional and has to do all the work trips that will involve. I don't think those folks hear their honey going, "Hey, I'm going to Europe and my boss will be whining and dining me throughout as we explore various beautiful locations, eat lots of food." It will also mostly be just us two. I feel like this might be an attempt to upgrade her lifestyle from the boss's end. Not that I would do this, but if I was trying to steal a man's wife and I had a crap ton of money, taking her out on insane vacations seems like a solid plan to win her affection. You hear about this stuff all the time. It starts as they work together closely and then it's he's so rich and charismatic, but instead of we need to work late, now it's we're going to Spain. All of this is despite the fact COVID is still raging across Europe. Don't get me wrong, my wife and I travel the world too. However, this guy's last vacation was taking a private 150-foot yacht with a built-in jacuzzi and fully weighted staff around the Mediterranean for a month, just for fun. They had some folks bail on the trip and no one batted an eye, they just carried on. When we go out to Spain, I feel like it's going to be so cushy and luxurious that it'll make our other vacations pale in comparison. This man's lifestyle isn't something we can hope to compete with. Even if this guy has pure intentions, I don't think it's going to change the fact that this will have to have at least some idealizing effect on my wife for her boss. What should my next steps be in resolving this? Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, have tried talking about it from a don't compete with the Jones standpoint? I think it could be the easier conversation. "Hey, I have noticed that since you have started working with your boss, you've started making abrupt changes and I feel like you are trying to emulate your boss's lifestyle and it is confusing me, because I thought we were good in our living situation. Is that changing for you?" Op answer, I have brought this up numerous times. It's an interesting dynamic. On one hand, my wife is the anti-capitalist screw the wealthy type. And then on the other hand, she's all we should buy a bigger house cause the dogs need more room to play. We generally agree we should live within our means and try not to be materialistic. However, her family came from near nothing as immigrants and now they live in a large and expensive house that is nicer than ours. This is purely because of their hard work. It's an honorable achievement. I respect them a lot. I think my wife wants a large expensive house. She complains about our house even though we are actively renovating it. I think there are two wants in her mind. One is be good to the environment, live an honest life, and the other is, but I do love luxurious things and want them quite a bit. I have asked why she seems to want to upgrade our lifestyle. She gets defensive and doesn't think that's true. There is a conflict of interest in her head and I think she's not sure what she really wants in life. Redditor 2, in my opinion, This is a straight up sit down and be blunt about your feelings type of conversation. I feel like you're feeling an attraction to this guy and I want to talk about why. Don't allow her to sidestep, because getting to the bottom of why she's feeling disconnected from you and is connecting with him is very, very important. If you want to continue your marriage, you have to, or you will always wonder at best and at worst, she cheats. Op answer, yeah, fair enough. I intend to. I'm going to discuss it with some trusted friends tonight, and then I'm going to take all that you all have said and have a good hard talk about where she wants this marriage to go. Redditor 3, as benign as other will want to make this out to be, there is definitely office tension there. May not have crushed on each other out in the world, but when working on projects and seeing one another all day every day, the Jim and Pam effect occurs. I would make your presence known. I wouldn't say anything outright to your wife because I have a feeling she'd lash out and get hopped up fast from guilt. I'd 100% go on this trip and would not be talked into not coming along on their daily jaunts. I'd enjoy my Spanish getaway, duck my wife every day of it, and interrupt and re-steer the conversation if and when the boss over dinner tries to get personal or talk of wingmanning. It's a trap to make her jealous, and she will get jealous and do everything on his dime. I'd recoup what's come on between them and use that time to try to get my wife alone and rekindle. If she insists on not leaving him out the whole time, you know where her heart is, not we it should be. I'd keep asking though leading up to it, are you sure no one else from the team should be coming? Seems odd to just have your position and his, as I'm sure other key members would benefit. Op answer, yeah, this was my thought as well. I went into that weekend dinner with the intention of making it known I am an affable chap who is my wife's husband. I didn't sit at the table as a wallflower and make it seem like I was invisible. I talked to everyone, made jokes, had people laughing, stirring conversation. I plan to do the same when we're on vacation in Spain. As politely and respectfully as I can, unless I have to be more assertive. I'm going to make it clear this is my wife and I'm the husband, and I'm not going anywhere. I don't mean to make this sound aggressive or outrageous, but it's a point of making yourself known and not being some pushover. When you say wingmanning, just to be clear, you mean as in them in any way indicating I'm a third wheel to their excursion through Spain. Any tips for how to finesse these conversational moments would be useful if you have any examples to share. Redditor 4, I'm just gonna give you my thoughts here. 1. This guy reeks like family money and a concocted self-made man backstory. 2. If you read online, folks will tell you you must trust your wife, and if you have a good relationship, people who provide boilerplate stupidity are to be ignored. Humans are complicated. Circumstances are nuanced. 3. You seem like a pretty intelligent and rational dude. You have good self-talk, and I think that bodes well for you in this situation particularly, so please continue to do so. 4. Both users drawn Otterix and Body Oil Glass View provided strong actionable advice perspective, which is shockingly rare here. I personally am more in agreement with Body Oil's advice, but perhaps some combination of both can be leveraged here. If I think of anything actually insightful here, I will edit and add. Op answer, thanks, appreciate the input. I don't know if he's a poser, he definitely has means and money. There are also a lot of people who have known him for decades and can vouch for his background. Thanks for the compliment on being intelligent and rational. Even when SHT goes south, I try and keep a level head.